The biggest thing he said was like the Wikipedia Foundation ended up taking a bunch of bribes from the government to manipulate articles or lock articles, and they get paid off by other organizations. So he felt this ethical conflict continuing to work on the project. He tried to start other encyclopedic organizations and sort of ran into similar issues where there was always a fight from more important actors about the content being produced. And so he said that he thought the only way to have a sustainable encyclopedic project would be to somehow decentralize access to like the back end.
Hello, welcome back to Juno Communications, the Inside Scoop, where you'll find us interviewing new and upcoming projects built on Juno. I'm thrilled to announce that we have the founder of alXandria. They will be with us to discuss a new project launching on Juno. First of all, thank you for coming on the show. We're excited for the demonstration. Before we get into that, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's 70 degrees in North Carolina, so I'm bummed out about the heat, but I'm happy to be on your show.
Excellent. I wish it was the same over here in the cold UK. Before we dive deep into it, would you mind explaining what you do on the project and how you ended up involved building it?
Yeah, sure. So it's just an idea I had. I read Larry Sanger, who co-founded Wikipedia, his book, Essays on Free Knowledge. He was kind of talking about why he left the project. And the biggest thing he said was like the Wikipedia Foundation ended up taking a bunch of bribes from the government to manipulate articles or lock articles, and they get paid off by other organizations. So he felt this ethical conflict continuing to work on the project. He tried to start other encyclopedic organizations and sort of ran into similar issues where there was always a fight from more important actors about the content being produced. And so he said that he thought the only way to have a sustainable encyclopedic project would be to somehow decentralize access to like the back end, which is what we use IPFS and Juno for. So it was kind of an idea birthed out of that book. My role at alXandria is I do the smart contract development. I don't do most of the front end work, but I do help out on the front end, and wrote the docs, kind of everything. You know, when you're a startup, you do everything.
Excellent.
Awesome. So you've already heard it, right? alXandria is an encyclopedia. I hope I pronounced that word correct.
That's perfect.
But can you get a little bit better or more into what it is, what the goal is, what your vision for the project is? Just introduce us a bit.
Yeah, sure. So we do have a white paper too on our docs, along with tons of other resources if you want to read in depth about the topics we're discussing. So docs.alexandria.org. But the vision for the community version of alXandria, which is what we had launched, is really to let it be a playground for people to produce whatever content they want. So you can essentially put anything up. We want it to be ideally an encyclopedic entry, but there is no smart contract restriction on the content you produce. So if you want to talk about something or even put up like an opinionated article on a subject, as long as it's presented in like a narrated third party or third person tone, we would welcome the contribution. We have a full charter on the docs page too to kind of describe what we're looking for, but the vision for that is just to allow the community to do whatever they want with it. Wikipedia started when it launched with a sister organization called Newpedia, and Newpedia after 1 year had only 20 articles and Wikipedia had 20,000. So it's really up to the community to just see where it goes. The long-term vision is in about a month, we're launching a scholar version of the product. So it'll be sort of a similar front-end experience, except we're going to target universities, research organizations, and companies, and they can put up their documentation, they can publish research, they can pay a small fee in Juno to lock the article against editing. So that way you don't have, you know, me going in and editing a CNN article or, you know, taking your research that's peer reviewed and defacing it. So we're trying to target kind of all types of knowledge repositories. And if the project is successful, which is just going to be determined if people like to use it or not, it's pretty easy to make these registry type contracts on Juno. So we were going to launch a forum like a Commonwealth, for example, but fully on a Juno blockchain. We wouldn't even need IPFS for it necessarily. probably introduce that functionality just in case people wanted to put really long form content on. But a forum specific part, which would also be subdomain of Alexandria. We've pretty much finished at the smart contract level a simple version of like Twitter. We know how protocol is already doing this, so we're not trying to steal people's thunder. But if Alexandria as a brand became successful, we would launch that as well as a subdomain of Alexandria. So looking at all types of content generation and media.
Excellent. That sounds interesting. We can touch on some of the technical aspects a little bit later. If now's a good time, would you mind sharing us a little demonstration on the website so far that you have? I'll just put you into
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. Can you see my screen fine?
Yes, we got you now. I just had to move
Awesome.
something around.
No worries. So this is the docs page. We have guides up, including a full YouTube walkthrough if people need to reference something else. But guides for searching through articles, registering profile names, creating articles, editing articles, deleting articles, and liking articles, which is the functionality for the community version. The only thing we don't have on here is deleting articles. That is possible to do in the community version. It's just very expensive to disincentivize the action. The charter here is kind of talking about what we're looking for in articles, though we don't enforce anything actually at the smart contract level, and then all the resources. So the page itself, going up here, this front end is hosted on Akash Network, which is another Cosmos project. Obviously, the smart contract's on Juno. We've got backup versions too on Akash. So basically, if this was your first time visiting the website, you could go on and search through any article. You can search through an article based on the tags, which are these things at the bottom, or based on the title. So if I wanted to see articles about crypto, I could search through the tag crypto, and it shows me them. If I was trying to find Juno Network specifically, I could type in Juno, and now it's going to show me Juno Network. You can search through articles without your wallet connected, so no requirement there. If you want to contribute, that's create, edit, or delete, you have to connect your wallet. So you just click the connect button. First time you'd be prompted, do you want to let alexandria.org connect to your Kepler wallet? And then it shows you your wallet address. It is completely optional to register a profile name. If you don't register a profile name, then it will just save the wallet address as the post author. But if you do want to register a unique profile name, you can do that. It's the most expensive action on the platform at 1 Juno. Creating an article is 500 U Juno, editing an article 0.2 Juno, so everything's really cheap. 500 U Juno is 0.0005 Juno. So for the profile name, we could call this, what do you want to name it? You give me one.
Let's go with Juno Comms.
All right, Juno Comms. So when you register a profile name, it's going to remove spaces. It's going to lowercase everything. So if we put in Juno Comms, it'll do front end validation. But if you did this through the command line too, it would also remove the spaces. So there can only be one person with that registered profile name, and also titles. When you create an article, there can only be one article of the exact same title. So our profile name's created, and now we have Juno Comms. So now when we create an article, it'll be saved with the post author of Juno Comms. So to make a new article, I thought it'd be fun to do one on the Juno Communications. Is it a sub DAO or full DAO?
Sub DAO. Yeah, sub DAO.
All right, cool, sub DAO. And what would you say is a short description of this?
So collating information for new projects built on Juno and distributing them across the broader network.
All right, you mind if we just leave it at that?
Yeah.
Sweet.
I try to
The
set
post
myself
image.
there.
Yeah, no worries. You can go in and edit this too. You know, that's the beauty, is you can go in, and if you want to add more information in the description, you want to change the content, you can just go in and do that permissionlessly.
Yeah.
So just going through too a little bit of like what we're typing in here to show like Juno Networks, the post image shows up on the side. So it's this thing. The article title is here. The short description is right underneath it. The side tags, which we're about to enter, are going to show up below the image. And we're trying to have parity with Wikipedia, basically. So they have their side content right by the image. And then this is the actual content that's stored on IPFS. So we'll go in that. So the tags here, we can do Juno, and we'll say crypto, and maybe DAO. Side content. This was founded in 2022, technically, right? At the end of 2022.
Yes. Yeah.
And the ecosystem is Juno, so we can just do that. I just grabbed some stuff from the Commonwealth here, so we can copy and paste it in. And keeps the formatting. The only thing it does do is just standardizes the font.
Yeah.
So I like to put H3 on the summary and the references. And it's a pretty similar or like a familiar text editing experience. You can Command B for things, you know, you can add in bullet points. If you wanted to link other articles, this is something that will improve a little bit with the Command K, but you can also link things. So we can link Juno into the JunoCom subDAO. And then you just click create, you get prompted, 500 Juno, 500 Juno for the fee. And so what this does now is it first sends the article content, which is what we just put in, to IPFS. Then it stores it on the blockchain. And when both things are done, it creates the post, returns you to the homepage, and now it's the most recent article. You click it, and there it is. So
Beautiful.
anybody can go in and edit or delete this post.
So you mean anybody can go in, as in that's it? It's fully open source. Then anyone can go in, or is it anyone who created the article, the team, or anything like that? What can you just touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so literally anybody in this community version can do anything. And
Right.
that was the way Wikipedia initially
was
was
done.
created.
Yeah.
And the idea behind the Scholar version is that if you don't want somebody to go in and contribute to your article, which is if you have a docs page, you probably don't want permissionless editing of your docs page. That's where you'll be able to lock articles. So
Yeah.
it'll be a really similar front end experience, just a subdomain. And it gives you a little bit more sovereignty of your content as opposed to permissionlessness.
Excellent.
I have actually, that's an interesting question. I think I would like to touch on, and that's like you can lock content and then it's not editable, right? So this is the question here, I guess, is what's the trade-off between censorship resistance and also completely wrong information? Like what prevents me from posting something that's completely false about the person and then locking the article, and this person can do absolutely nothing to change this information, right? Is there some way, if something completely wrong is posted, that this can be edited out, or yeah, how is that going?
Yeah, so for the community version, you can't lock articles, which is what we have now. So on the current smart contract that's live, there is no way to lock them. So anybody can go in and edit and fix the content. For the Scholar version, the purpose is to target companies and institutions. We are going to put in a either multi-sig or admin. Right now it's just a single wallet address, admin account to unlock articles. So not delete them. But if you went in and you published an article about, let's say, alXandria, and you said it was illegal or blah, 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 I could unlock the article to enable others to edit it. And there is this trade-off between permissionlessness and like correct information sometimes, and like the sovereignty of the content you generate. So it's sort of a balance we're trying to figure out, where in the Scholar version, we're prioritizing sovereignty. In the community version, we're prioritizing the permissionlessness. But like, yeah, the idea that as the organization, we can go in and unlock articles still gives us a more authority than the average user, right? In the Scholar version, which has its pros and cons. Pros would be we can fight incorrect information, which the Scholar version has a higher standard of the content. The cons, though, are we have privileges other users don't have. The benefit that Juno gives is it's public what we do. So unlike the Wikipedia Foundation, which can take a backdoor deal and lock things and you can't tell, or et cetera, it's all going to be public if we decide to unlock an article.
Excellent. I've got a question on some technical questions here. What tools
Yeah.
or software are you using to build and maintain alXandria?
Yeah, so I'm pulled up our model here, which is just like a simple model to understand kind of what's going on if you like to visualize things. But code is just written in VS Code on Cosmwasm. The front end is, what you'd expect, a Dockerized application in JavaScript. We've also open sourced both those things. So beyond just writing the smart contract code in Cosmwasm and then deploying it on Juno, IPFS is what is storing the long form content. So when you put in the info, it gets sent to IPFS. We have a dedicated gateway through Infura right now, and that is what persists, pins in IPFS terminology, the content. That dedicated gateway returns the URI, which is like the content identifier hash in IPFS. It builds it into a transaction to be stored in the Juno blockchain. The user signs it. Juno then creates the post through our smart contract, then conducts a query, and that's returned to the user on the home page. So that's kind of the walkthrough. In the future, if we end up getting a lot of articles, which obviously we hope to, we're going to need to build out a backend that is conducted through a query. Just that way, we're not destroying RPCs and the public REST endpoints.
Yeah, makes sense. And what's the process for adding new features or functionality to alXandria?
Yeah, so this is like I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, by the way, if that's
Yeah,
fine.
cool, thank you.
Yeah, just to save some bandwidth. But the fun thing about alXandria is on the Juno Comms meeting yesterday, Jake said they want to test things because they don't want to be stupid. And when you're working at the protocol level or you're dealing with a financial application, that is very important. And we have over 97% code coverage on our test. So we're not being completely frivolous about this, but with a non-financial specific application, you do have much more leeway just to put out the product. And if the contract broke right now, it is extremely easy to recreate the content, the registry contract, just by taking the query and then changing the dedicated gateway and upgrading whatever we need to fix. We've already done 2 contract migrations just to fix the way, for example, the query worked. Originally, it showed you the oldest post first, so then you have to go back. So we've already done successful migrations on the contract. On our GitHub, if you want to go to it, on the contract, we've also conducted all tests with all commands on the testnet and put out those commands with the testnet block explorer. As we run through the command line as well, we're doing the same thing for the mainnet version. So the process, though, is if we're introducing a feature, we write tests in Cosmwasm on a separate test.rs file, so you can see exactly what it is, try to name it as closely to what it's doing as possible. Then we upload it to the testnet, run a full test, update the README file for documentation purposes, and then we deploy it on the mainnet.
Fantastic. And just to piggyback off of that, how is your data on the platform like backed up? Is there anything safeguarded against data loss, or if you do hit a problem, do you have to literally recreate from zero?
Yeah, so we have sort of like this God mode. I don't know really what to call it, like a pseudo ability to recreate the contract. And so, queries are done constantly, like literally every 6 seconds to check for articles. And in IPFS, it's the content identifier hash that matters for the content. So things, when you pin them, that node is going to be persisting it. So Infura is persisting the data. The data does not just disappear though, if they unpin the file, because it's still being stored and generated across other nodes. You just don't have the full guarantee that it'll have permanence. And so we could easily just introduce a second gateway. We could introduce our own node. We could introduce a external URI through storage if we need to, or Arweave or any protocol. So it is very easy. We just take the content identify hashes and then either upload all those to an external Web3 project like storage or Filecoin or whatever. And Or if we still want to use IPFS and just want to switch away from Infura, we could simply add that gateway into the contract, and it wouldn't break state or anything.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully all this is making sense.
Yeah, yeah. It's just that we've got another section. Maybe talk a little bit about industry specifics. I don't know if Lucas has got anything in mind here, but yeah, I mean, we were thinking this earlier on. What kind of industry is this? You know, what industry are you in? You know, it's something I'm not really familiar with. I know obviously of Wikipedia, but yeah, I suppose there was anything you could touch on there.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and you know, it's very technically different from the way Wikipedia works. We just use that comparison because it's the most similar thing that people can conceive of. I just like, crypto is so financial specific, and it is that native use case to cryptocurrency, which is great. And I do really love like being able to have financial privacy through like secret snip contracts, right? And Juno Juicer's coming out. I'm personally working on a coin join version. So that way you could have like a little bit of a less intensive, expensive version where you have some improved privacy, but not as much as like, right, Juno Juicer with zero knowledge proofs. The industry of like an encyclopedia, which you can't enforce content about, meaning like anything can be posted on, is sort of just touching everything. So we are sort of trying to touch everything. The reason we're not like putting out this is exactly what the community version needs to be is because the more massaged version of the platform will be the Scholar version. So that's where we're trying to get into like research, official content put out by a company. So that's the industry we're kind of in. It's like media primarily, and then we'll abstract away the blockchain usage for them. But yeah, it's kind of hard to pin it down. I guess I would say media, Web3 media.
Awesome.
So I think still, right, your main competitor is probably like Wikipedia. So my question is, like, how do you incentivize people to write content on your page? How do you want to fill that page up with content, especially outside of crypto? Because Juno users might obviously use it, but how do you want to get an article there about, I don't know, whales or dolphins? Like, because if I write something like that, I'd probably publish it on Wikipedia because that's where everyone is going to read it. To me right now, if I'm thinking about it, who would write here is people that don't want to be censored. And then you kind of have this risk of drifting into becoming a conspiracy theory platform because those people are struggling. So what's your like idea, or like what's the user acquisition strategy to make this legitimate platform, bring research on there, bring, I don't know, if like serious content on there?
Yeah, so for the community version, right, just to be very specific about the platform we're talking about, the community version, like right now, definitely cannot be used by just a random person. You know, we don't have the ability to accept US dollars yet. You can't accept any IBC currency, although we've written the smart contract to easily accept them. But we at some point do need to make money as well. So we're going to introduce the ability to add your token through IBC. If, like, say you want to pay an Atom, you could have the IBC version of Atom on the Juno blockchain for a fee to alXandria. But it's actually not easy at all to contribute to Wikipedia. So if you go onto their article wizard, and we have this on our docs as well as our homepage, and also the white paper. I don't know if I just said that, but it takes about 4 months, according to their article wizard, for your draft to get published. And most of the time, your edits are rejected too on articles. So it's actually kind of difficult to contribute because it's gotten so large and it is so top-down oriented in the type of content that they want to be public and published. So the immediate benefit of using alXandria is you don't have to wait 4 months. You saw what that was, like 6 seconds or 7 seconds to publish any article you want. And nobody's going to tell you you can't do that. So that's incentivization tool number one, is just the ability and ease of contribution. Two, once we actually have a user platform or like a user base, we're going to turn on fee shares for authors. So right now it's essentially free to create an article, 500 Juno. If we had a lot of people reading articles, we can monetize other aspects of the platform. Like number one, we would be getting fees from the edits. 2, we could put up an advertisement. 3, we're trying to have the scholar version be what we're monetizing, and that will subsidize the community version. But then the authors would get if we took an ad, the authors would get a fee share based on the amount of views their page got from that advertisement. If their article gets edited, they'll get, say, 50%, 25%, or whatever it is of all edits on their post, etc. So there will be a monetary benefit to contributors as well in the future. Right now, though, it just would be meaningless and kind of a waste of gas if your article got 1 edit and then you have this random amount of Juno show up in your wallet. It's like 0.001 Juno. So it's just not worth it yet until we actually have users.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's kind of this chicken and egg thing, right? You need content to bring the users, and you need the users to bring the content creators, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
But
absolutely.
You have any strategy there, or what's the idea to solve it?
Yeah, we do have a few ideas. So the number one problem is we just don't have funding. If we got funding, we could implement a lot of things. But right now we don't have any funding. So this is just completely off of the dime of our backs, putting out the project because it was ready to be released. So if we can get funding, we can build out a backend, like a proper backend, so that way we're not doing queries all the time. And once that happens, we can start scraping the internet for content and then automatically uploading it to IPFS and then therefore alXandria on the smart contract. So Wikipedia, for example, makes they release data dumps. They're public in SQL. But if we dumped 10 gigabytes or like 1 terabyte of information onto IPFS without funding, right, like we're going to lose a ton of money, number one. But 2, the query would take like a very long time. So we need a backend to be able to support that amount of data. So once we get funding, we can start implementing strategies for increasing the amount of content on the platform.
Awesome. And then I would like to get into something else. Why did you choose Juno? Like, what have brought you here to our network?
Juno is the home of Cosmwasm. There's a lot of good platforms with active communities in the Cosmos, but there's not a lot of permissionless Cosmwasm ecosystems that have good communities. So Osmosis has a permissioned Cosmwasm upload system. So does Stargaze. Another permissionless one would be Desmos, but their volume, the 24-hour volume is like $500 most days. Nobody uses it right now. So it's Juno is like that really good in between where they have permissionless smart contracts, but they also have a community behind it. So we need the community, right? We need users. We eventually need to integrate IBC tokens to expand this to anybody who wants to use the platform. And Juno is the only way to do that easily, right? We can migrate when we want to migrate. We don't have to put up a gov prop.
Awesome. Yeah, I have one more question. How do you see, I think we touched on it before, but how do you see the project bringing value to Juno? I mean, I quite like, because of like Juno Communications subDAO, we're sort of doing the role of like producing articles and educating users. And I think it would work really well with like something of our subDAO to a go-to place, like to send people, here's alXandria. There's some good information there. It's a good, it's a use case for a user experience, to go there and sort of learn about a project or research a project being built on Juno. That's a kind of little hub that you're creating. I suppose the question I'm asking is how else do you see it bring value to Juno?
Yeah, so something that's really cool about IBC and Cosmos is if you think about like the fat state protocol thesis in Ethereum, it has validity. And when you think about like the more specialized, interoperable sovereign chain thesis, app chain thesis of Cosmos, it has validity. And there is an in-between though, where like, for example, there are economies of scale and diseconomies of scale. And so you need to find a balance of like the right size of an organization. So there's a reason why not every individual in the country is their own company. Like they still form into these medium-sized entities, which vary in size, but it's not just one person for everything. So a problem in Cosmos, in my mind, is you have a lot of things that are their sovereign chains that don't need to be, and that's their choice, and they should be allowed to do it. But you are then taking away some value and coordination to make like one pretty good medium-sized entity, and now you have like three disjointed, not great small entities. So alXandria brings value to Juno because one, we're on Juno, we're bringing contract executions to Juno, we're bringing fees to Juno, and people can use the platform in Juno. We're not our own token. Like, so if you want to use alXandria and contribute to alXandria right now, you need Juno. So projects that have Juno natively supported are like, that's really what Juno is all about as a interoperable smart contract platform. So that's where the main benefits being drawn from. Plus, if we got recognition in the general public, you know, it's say this blows up or whatever. We've already had some dicey articles, to go back to your point, Lukashenko. We had like the Hunter Biden files put up. We had Donald Trump's tax returns put up. So like there are already dicey things. So say we get like some notoriety, or even, you know, good positive feedback. People are going to be wondering like, oh, how is this possible? It's on Juno. So there's a few ways, but primarily it's just the utilization of the smart contract and the requirement to have Juno to utilize the platform.
Excellent. Where can everyone reach out to you if they need more information or if they want to contribute? If you got, obviously you'll have a GitHub. We can add all these to the description below. But yeah, if there's anything else you'd like to add, then I want to say thank you for coming on to the Inside Scoop today. Yeah,
thanks a ton for having me. Please follow us on Twitter at alXandria Cosmos. Contribute an article, any article, doesn't have to be perfect, on alexandria.org. That'd be awesome. It's really fun to see the community generated articles. We are also on Gitopia now, so you can see our code on another Cosmos project, which focuses on decentralized code, cooperation, coordination. And our docs page we already touched on, our white papers on our docs page, and we have a Discord link in our docs as well under the resources tab if you have any other questions. Thank you for joining us on Juno Communications, the Inside Scoop today. Thanks for all your demonstration, and goodbye.
Thank you so much for being on, and thank you everyone for tuning in. It was a huge pleasure. See you next time.